On today's episode, we're going to try and see what may or may not be there when we review Leigh Whannell's 2020 reimagining of The Invisible Man. This is Chocolate Chip Horror. Hello, monsters, minions, and masters of the macabre, and welcome to Chocolate Chip Horror, the only podcast with ooey-gooey horror goodness in every bite. I'm the Wolfman himself, Anthony, and as always, I am joined by my wife, Andrea, the Queen of Harpies. On this podcast, we review and nerd out about horror movies and snack on delicious treats. Andrea, what do we have today for snacks?
This week's snack is truly the ultimate culinary gaslight. It masquerades as a plain old brownie on the surface, but cutting into it exposes its true, multi-layered identity. Cookie dough, Oreos, and rich brownie batter.
Delicious.
We're pairing the Invisible Man from 2020 with these masterfully disguised layered brownies.
Delicious as always. All right, so we got our snack. Let's get into it. As a reminder, our episodes do include spoilers. So here's a quick and dirty synopsis. The Invisible Man stars the amazing Elisabeth Moss as Cecilia, a woman desperate to get out of what we can only imagine is a very physically and mentally abusive relationship. And her significant other, Adrian Griffin, played by Oliver Jackson Cohen, who is a very wealthy CEO of a company called Cobalt, which is, quote, a human computer augmentation company. I don't really know what that means, but it has a lot to do with optical science or the physics behind how to detect and manipulate light. I had to look that up. I am not that smart. And the company must be doing pretty good because he's sloppy rich. Like his house looks like it was built in 2077. It's got like concrete walls and these huge windows. It's like a fortress basically. So she ends up leaving him and staying with her friend James, played by Aldous Hodge, and his teenage daughter Sydney, played by Storm Reed. You will remember her from The Last of Us. But shortly after being there, Cecilia starts to get the feeling that Adrian is far from gone. In fact, he may be closer to her now than he's ever been. Now, this film is pretty different from the original 1933 film by James Whale, in that instead of the focus being on the monster, and I'm putting air quotes around that, the monster, where instead we're seeing a majority of the film through the eyes of the victim, and that being Cecilia. And that's a major difference between these two films, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's even different from the 2000s classic Hollow Man starring Kevin Bacon, Elizabeth Shue, and Josh Brolin.
And I'm a big fan of Josh Brolin. I had not seen this film before, so when I watched it and I saw that he was in it, I actually got pretty excited. And he looks very young in that film. Like you could tell it's from 2000. He looks like a baby. But yeah, like this 2020 version is very different from both of those two films. But it does utilize a lot of technology that we saw in Hollow Man. Like Hollow Man was really heavy on the technology. And we got a chance to see like the experiments that they were doing before, and not to spoil this movie for you, but before Kevin Bacon decided that he wanted to try to take the experiment to the next level and try it on himself as opposed to animals. But we're seeing like all the scientific stuff from it. In the 2020 version of this, we don't get a whole lot of the science behind it.
Right.
And even when she is in the house and we see that room that has all that scientific stuff in there, like we have no explanation. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know what he's done. Like,
and if we don't know, it's very clear that she doesn't know. She's just rushing to get out of there.
Right.
And you just see all of these little details kind of scattered throughout the house that kind of gives you a clue about what's actually happening, but you're not going to figure it out either, generally speaking.
Right. And it isn't until later in the film that we realize, like, he's not just some scientist who's doing weird stuff in his basement, you know, a la the Reanimator. You know what I mean? Like, he's the CEO of this company. He developed this technology. So, like, the fact that he was able to do all this and nobody knew about it, it's just a little crazy. I mean, it kind of speaks to how much power he actually had, both in the company, but also in that relationship and how much control he had. Now, this is one of those films that is just really hard to watch because as the viewer, we're watching the film, we can see that what's happening to her and the reality of the situation, which is that this man has found a way to make himself invisible and is now tormenting her. Like, we know that he's done that.
Right.
We don't know how he's done it, but we know that it actually happened. And so you really want people to believe her
Yeah.
because she's been through so much. I mean, like in the beginning of the film, he makes it very clear he's a violent man. He
Mhm.
doesn't just tug on the door handle trying to get her to get out of the car when she's on her way out of
No.
there. Like he smashes the car window with his bare hand. Like he is
Very easily too.
yeah, I mean, like, he did cut his hand, I saw some blood,
Mhm.
but, like, he didn't even flinch. He, like, broke that car like, that would've been her face if she
Mhm.
had been any closer to it, like, he's a violent man, and, I don't know why her friend waited till that happened before she pulled off, like, if I was
But
in the
her
car
sister?
her sister, right. Like, I know her sister was, like, confused at what was happening, but if I had seen a man run into the car tugging on it like, "Get out of the effing car," I would've been like, "Goodbye." You know what I'm saying? I don't even care what's going on, like, we're out of there.
I found her sister very frustrating throughout the film. So it's interesting that you brought her up because I I also in my notes wrote down why did she wait so long to pull off? Why wasn't she already waiting for her sister when when Cecilia said, "Hey, I need you to be here at this time,"
Right.
in the middle of the night? I would have been like, "Okay."
Right, like, there aren't too many situations that would warrant me to ask you to show up in the middle of the night in a
Mhm.
car without me giving you any sort of, details prior. As my sister, I expect that you would be able to put 2 and 2 together and be like, "Okay, she's either getting away from something or someone, or there's some situation that's happening that she doesn't wanna be a part of, whatever it is. If I'm gonna show up there, Imma wait for her to get in the car. I'm gonna be there an hour early
Yeah.
waiting for her, and when she gets in that car, we out."
Like, as soon as she gets in,
Like,
I'm
that is
not gonna be like, when
"What's
she gets
going
in, "What's
on?"
going on?" And seeing this man running from the woods and then screaming his head off and still just sitting there wondering what's happening.
Like, she was like, "Go,
Can we talk about
go."
it on our way to
Right.
wherever we're
I
going?
will explain it as soon as we are in like, out of danger, you
Mhm.
know? So yeah, that was really frustrating, and, like, you go through the entire film feeling like, okay, her ex found a way to become invisible. He's tormenting her, destroying her life. Obviously, nobody can see that, but the whole film is just a series of situations where she is being essentially gaslit to think that she's crazy. So it sounds crazy when she tries to explain it to somebody,
Mhm.
but it's like, as the viewer, you're just like, "Dude, just shut up and listen to her. This is real. This is
Right.
actually happening. The man has an optics he's like an optics scientist. Like,
Right.
why does it sound so
Why is it
difficult?"
so far-fetched?
Right, And, I tried to put myself in the shoes of the other characters, like, would I really believe this? And I do
Mhm.
that a lot when we see films. When we watched Obsession, I was trying to convince myself that I would believe Bear when he came to me and said, "I made a wish and it came true." But then I think about it practically, I'm just like, as open-minded and as imaginary as I'd like to think that I am, I think I would still have a hard time believing, so let me get this straight. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're seeing in this film. It's like, she doesn't just say, "He is a scientist who specializes in optics science, and I think that he has created some sort of shroud where
Mhm.
he can torment me without me actually being able to see him." I mean, in the film, they say that he has passed. And so everybody is just like, he's dead. His ashes are there. That's it. So even trying to illustrate it in that way would still sound far fetched, but it wouldn't sound quite as crazy as he's invisible. Okay. He's there, but he's not there. And he's just trying to get me.
Like, he found a way. But I don't know, I still feel like if she came to me with a story, especially because the people who were closest to her knew his background and they knew that he was an expert in the field of optics. It shouldn't have been quite so difficult for them to believe, especially when the only real proof they had were these pictures, and I mean, we know that there's Photoshop, we know that there's AI, like,
yeah.
it's just not I mean, he's an expert in the field of optics, like,
Yeah.
he could have manipulated that situation a million different ways. I don't think it would have been far-fetched at all had she come to me with this story and been like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure he's still alive and he made himself invisible. Or if he didn't do it, he figured out a way to make somebody else invisible and torment me.
Right, or it could very well be he's still alive, and while he's not actually invisible, he's found a way to, like, torment me
Mhm.
without me being able to see where he is to do
Yeah.
it. I mean, in part of the film, that email gets sent to her sister, like, that happens all day long. People are always getting their emails hacked into and stuff like that. So I'm just like, if he can do that, what makes you think he couldn't break into the house, disable a security system, anything like that, you know?
And, that's yet another reason why I found her sister to be so frustrating because she believed that email so easily. Literally anybody can send an email.
Yeah.
Literally anybody can send an email. All it takes is logging into that person's computer. I mean, how many people really log out of their emails?
And I mean, passwords are saved usually, so you don't
Yeah.
even have to worry about trying to remember a password now. Once you go in there, it recognizes your email and it'll auto populate that password. Like that's a thing for everybody. I don't usually suggest doing that, but I understand why people do it, Like nobody wants to try to remember 400,000 passwords. But the point is, like, it's very easy to torment somebody in that way.
Mhm.
That said, I do feel like because she's so scared and she's so frantic and she definitely feels like he's right there,
Mhm.
the delivery of that concept, she doesn't do the best job of conveying it in a way where you don't sound so crazy, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
as a victim of physical and mental abuse, obviously that is going to change you in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And it's going to be very difficult for you to get your words together and to be able to explain things to people because you are still experiencing that pain and that doesn't usually go away. So it makes sense to me that she wouldn't really be able to eloquently illustrate the concept that this man has created some sort of way scientifically to make himself not detectable by
Mhm.
the human eye. But because they recognize that she's been manipulated for so long, physically and mentally abused, like, they wouldn't say that they're gaslighting her. But when they say to her, like, "Don't let him do this to you," like, "He's not there," all those things,
Yeah.
it's like gaslighting, but not gaslighting, you know?
Because they're trying to be supportive and they're trying to help her through the situation because they really do think that the trauma from this experience has impacted her in such a way that she can't communicate
Right.
what is happening in the best way. But like I think we have to also take into account the fact that she's an architect and I feel like by default she's a very detail oriented person.
Mhm.
So I think even taking that into account, like, oh, she's gonna notice things more than maybe the average person might
Right.
notice.
Her perception is gonna be a lot
Right.
stronger.
Um, that by itself, I'm just like, maybe I should listen to her a little bit more than I am right now,
And her friend James definitely stepped up as much as he could,
as much as he could.
when he came back to speak with her, her ex's brother.
Was that Tom?
I think that was his name,
I
yeah,
think this
Tom.
is Tom. Oh,
Um,
no, that's gonna be his name
right.
for this episode.
So James is sitting there and he's like, "She wouldn't have asked me to come here. I've known her a long time. She wouldn't have asked me to come here if this wasn't important, so I need you to, like, listen and show some respect." You know what I'm saying? Like, he was
Mhm.
doing his best to be in her corner, but it obviously was very hard for him to do that when what she's saying just doesn't, to the person who doesn't really know her or the relationship or really her ex, it's really hard for them to take that seriously. Like, you're saying that somebody who is dead is not dead and that they've made themselves invisible. Like, you want so badly for her to be able to put this in a way where people go, "Okay, I think I get it now." But you don't get that. And so, like, I'd say all that to say, like, you're forced to watch her life unravel
Mhm.
as this guy enacts his revenge on her, and there's, like, literally nothing she can do about it.
Yeah.
And, like, that is what frustrated me in the film, but it also kept me watching it because I was just
Mhm.
like, there has got to be a way to prove that what she is saying is correct. And we see that in so many other films where, you know, even like Child's Play,
Yeah.
he's constantly trying to tell people it's
Like,
the
Chucky's
doll.
alive.
Chucky is doing all this, and everybody's like, just stop it, okay? Just stop it.
You're being such a brat. Like, no, no, the doll is actually alive. You need to listen.
Yeah.
Listen, Linda.
I really hate it when somebody in the film knows something and nobody believes them. So, but I also like how the film is turning her, invisible abuser into like a metaphor that essentially represents the hold that abusers have on victims long after they have finally escaped them, and that damage that lasts for years. So that control that they had over them, like, still lingers. It's
Mhm.
like he's in the house, he's invisible, he's still lingering, he's still there, the threat is still there, and it's, like, basically, like, a metaphor for that trauma that, we were talking
Mhm.
about that just it doesn't go away. And when you watch the film, you can see her go through these stages. At one point, it almost feels like she's just accepting her fate, but she's not, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, she's very, you know, detail oriented.
Yes.
So she's thinking about every single way that she can turn the tables on this. Um, but like, no matter what she says, it's always just comes out like a person with mental disabilities. Um, and I was like, balling my fists in rage because I was like, this is just not fair. Like nobody's believing her. Um, but again, it kept me continuing to watch the film, trying to find how she's going to get back at him, because
Mhm.
that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for her to be like, gotcha, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we get that,
At the
which
very end, we do get that.
right,
We definitely do. I mean, I even found the ending a little bit frustrating too, but we won't talk about that just yet either.
right. I did want to go into how Lee uses like wide empty pans
Mhm.
and the slow camera movements.
Yeah. So, I wrote a few notes about this because he does it a lot. So, remember at the very beginning when Cecilia is trying to pack up all her stuff so she can leave, she accidentally kicks the dog's bowl,
Right, which makes a loud sound, and you're just like, "Don't make all this noise."
and you're just kinda like, "He has to be awake. He has to be awake." But he doesn't wake up. There is this one scene where it goes from Cecilia and it pans over to what looks like an empty hallway. And I'm assuming that he was awake and had the suit on, and we just could not see that he had the suit on, that we couldn't see that he was in the hallway.
That's an interesting theory because I was gonna say, I think that he was probably awake, but he was, like, biding his time because
Mhm.
he didn't think that she had thought all the ways to get out of that house.
Mhm.
So he was like, eventually, she's gonna realize there's no escape and she's gonna come back to this bed. But I'm just gonna chill and allow her to go through her changes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
again, that manipulation. He's giving her just enough rope because he feels like at the end of the day, she's mine. She's not
Mhm.
going anywhere. And it isn't until like, the car alarm goes off and
Yeah.
she's all the way down the lawn and over the wall that he's like, okay, now she's really trying to get out of here. So now I
Uh-huh.
gotta go after her. But yeah, like that's interesting. Like maybe he was wearing the suit and just watching her like,
Yeah.
what does she think she's really going to do? But then the question becomes, she moved the camera so she could actually watch him from her, I think it was from her phone.
Mhm.
So how did he make it look like he was still laying in bed if he was wearing the suit while he was in that hallway?
Do we really see her look at the phone that much, though?
She does it a couple times because I mean that's the whole reason that was part of the device that was allowing us to at least feel a little bit of hope. Like as
Mhm.
long as she got the phone, she can keep an eye on him, and if she doesn't see him in that bed, then she knows she got a book.
Or maybe it was even Tom. I don't know.
Because we don't get the reason behind this entire thing,
Right.
like why Tom was even involved the way that he was and all this stuff, like because he was obviously being manipulated as
Mhm.
well. So yeah, I mean it could have been Tom.
Maybe it was Tom, I don't know, but she kicks the dog's bowl, and then she's like, and you can see it go from her, and then it goes down the hallway, and you're just like, "Huh, why are we focused so much on this hallway?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, "Did he realize she was leaving all along?" Because when you look at the glass of water that she drugged, he didn't really drink that much of it,
Right.
and so much of the pill was dissolved at the bottom or pills, I don't know, it was dissolved at the bottom. I don't know if he really would have been knocked out the way that it appears at the beginning, so, I don't know. I think that some way, either he or Tom was watching her.
Mhm. I mean, they were probably always watching her. No
Mhm.
matter what she did, no matter where she went, they always knew.
Even the whole, "You think he didn't know that you were secretly taking birth control pills?"
Like, that means he was checking her when she wasn't even aware that he was
Mhm.
checking. He was, like, all the way in her life. That's a, like, serious amount of, like, control and, mental abuse to
Mhm.
be so far in somebody's life like that, that you know every move that they're making. So this entire plan to try to leave him, he probably knew about.
Yeah.
But once it got to a point where he wasn't able to, like, control it anymore and she actually did get away, I feel like that's when he had to create a brand new plan,
Mhm.
and that's the whole premise of the movie, so, um
Although, she even mentions later in the film how he told her, "You know you can never leave, right?
yeah,
And if you do, I will find you, and I will stalk you, and you won't even know that I'm there. You won't be able to see me."
right. So, that leads me to believe that, like, this plan, maybe she wrote it down or something, or maybe she discussed it, in I don't know. There had to be a way for him to know that this was gonna happen. It might have just been, "I know I'm a jerk, and I know eventually you're gonna try to run. So let me just make it clear to you that that is not an option," Like, maybe he didn't know her plan in, detail, but he knew eventually she was gonna try to get away because what normal person wouldn't,
Mhm.
Eventually she's going to try to escape this situation, and so he wanted to make it clear that wherever you go, I will find you. And that that comment that he made, it was probably him saying, "I have a suit that would make me completely invisible
Yeah.
that I will be able to use, and you will not be able to see me. So, stay in your lane because wherever you go, I will find you."
So he straight up told her what he was gonna do,
Yeah,
which is just wild.
yeah, it was crazy. Now in the film, um, you know, they lead to the idea that he committed suicide. And in his will, he goes and says that he's going to give her all this money contingent on, her not committing a crime or anything like that. But then everything that happens leads right up to the one thing that would keep her from being able to keep all that money. So again, it's like he knew she's going to get this money. It's going to drop her guard. She's going to get sloppy. And then, boom, I will be right where she is. I will be able to find her. And, I will make it very clear that I'm the one that is always in control. So the money was
No,
never hers.
yet another
Yep.
manipulation.
Yep. So, you know, when we talk about how those scenes are used, and I feel like the last few movies that we've really enjoyed have all utilized this idea of, focusing on something so that our attention is diverted
Mhm.
and we're expecting something to happen and then taking that away from us, like, "No, that's not what you're expecting?" And I
Right.
mean, even in earlier films, we've seen them do that before. Just to use as an example, one of the first ones, The Exorcist III, that famous scene,
Mhm.
the one of the best jump scares in horror history, in my opinion. They dragged that out for a while
Yeah.
because they were like, "We know that when we put the camera here and we let it run for a little bit, you're gonna be expecting something.
Mhm.
But we're not gonna give it to you right away. We're gonna wait for you to go, well, I guess this isn't gonna have anything scary happen. And then we're just gonna give it to you?
Right.
And so, like, they've taken that idea and sort of modernized it with the use of like these liminal spaces and like,
Mhm.
focusing on a room or, just one area. And you're thinking, okay, here comes a jump, and then it just doesn't
And then it
come.
doesn't happen,
Mm,
or at least you think it's not happening,
right.
because we have several instances where it looks like there's just an empty room or an empty hallway in The Invisible Man, but what we're really seeing is things from Adrian's perspective. We just can't see him.
Right. Exactly, and I think that's really effective in creating this idea that, you know, because she can't see him,
Mhm.
it's she's in far more danger with him just being there. You know,
Right.
he doesn't have to be grabbing her, poking her, or saying anything to her. Just the fact that he's
Just
there
watching her.
watching, that is like terrifying.
And I mean, it's while she's doing the most mundane things, like just on her computer or
Folding clothes, yeah, or
sleeping.
sleeping, yeah. Like the idea of somebody just watching you.
Mhm.
I don't like that at all.
Wait,
So
so you mean to tell me I can't just stand in the corner of the bedroom and watch you sleep?
no, this is not obsession. You cannot do that. If you do that, I'm
Mm.
throwing a pillow at you. And as always, when we talk about the cast, Elisabeth Moss puts on a stellar performance. She always does. She does panicked well. She does emotional, confused, mentally weakened, numb. All of those things she does well. Even at the end when she's like basically vindicated,
Yeah.
like you just feel it with her. You're just like, it's over. Everybody kept telling me, don't worry. Like, and she was very adamant about the idea he's not gone until I say he's gone,
Mhm.
And so at the end of that, when she makes that possible, when she creates that reality, you can see the relief and the release of that, So now she can actually start the healing. And she's just, when it comes to performances like that, she's one of the best.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't seen The Handmaid's Tale, which I understand if you haven't because I had to stop watching it, it was too much. But I mean, her facial expressions, just the way that you can just focus in and you know exactly what emotion she wants the viewer to feel.
Mhm.
It really is extraordinary. Even she's not in it for all that long, but she's in the film Us, and you see her manipulate her face in all sorts of ways where, you're just like, "Ooh, okay, that's kinda creepy."
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, Elizabeth Moss, she's been around for quite a while, and she's definitely a master of her craft.
When you pointed out to me that she was in Girl Interrupted. I have seen that movie so many times, and for anyone else who has, you probably already knew, but, like, the girl with the burned face, I was like, "That was Elizabeth Moss, wasn't it? Oh my gosh," and,
Yeah.
obviously, she was amazing in that,
Mhm.
like, the scene where she's, like, singing, the Downtown song by herself, like, she just does these kinda roles, like, masterfully,
Yes, she does.
and I mean, everybody else in that movie really, punched well above their weight in terms of acting skills,
Mhm.
because they, in a lot of scenes they have to act like they're being beaten up by somebody who's not there.
Yeah.
Storm Reed,
We saw her in another film, I think with Nia Long, and she was Storm Reid played the daughter in this film. I cannot remember the name of it, but she was very good in that as well.
I don't remember that film.
I think the mom Nia Long is the mom, and I think she goes on a vacation and then she goes missing?
That's right, and then her daughter is, like, on this quest to try to find
Yes.
her and find out what
Mhm.
happened to her. I do remember that, yeah, and she was great in that too.
Mhm.
So, she, in my opinion, is one of the other up and coming, actresses that I hope to see a lot more of, in the future.
So we also see Oliver Jackson Cohen in this film. He
Mhm.
plays Adrian, and we've seen him in some Mike Flanagan work as well,
Yes.
where, if you've ever seen The Haunting of Bly Manor, he's a horrible person in that as well. And I feel like it so perfectly aligns with the character that he is in this film. Do you remember toward the beginning of the film, Cecilia, she's rewarded the money. They tell her, oh, you're going to get like $100,000 per month.
Mhm.
And she so kindly opens up the bank account for Sydney to go to Parsons Fashion School.
Yes.
And they go, oh, we need to celebrate. So what do? They pop open a bottle of champagne. The very next day, James tells Cecilia, "Oh, I'm really hungover from that champagne." And Cecilia goes, "Yeah, me too. Champagne does that to me every time." So, we before we review these films, we watch everything multiple times.
Right.
The first time I heard that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Adrian very clearly drugged the champagne with the diazepam."
Mhm.
Cecilia drops diazepam at the very beginning. It's what she also used to drug Adrian, and eventually it turns back up in the house.
Right, and that was the way that she knew, that she figured out that he's not actually dead, because she was like, I lost this the night I escaped and it found its way back to me. Like, there's only one explanation for how I would have this back in my possession. It's
And it's
because,
covered in blood,
right.
like, it's very clearly from that night.
Mhm.
So, you go, "Oh my god, he must have drugged that champagne," which is bad enough because he drugged both Cecilia and James.
Right.
But when she mentions, "Oh, yeah, champagne does that to me every time," does that mean that he was drugging her the entire time that they were together?
It definitely makes me wonder. At the very least, he knew that champagne was something that she, drank on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So that very well could have been one way that he was able to keep her, that
Yeah,
control over her. Like, I'll give her the champagne, I'll put a little diazepam in there, she'll get all like messed up or whatever, and then I have more control over her at
right.
that point. So yeah, that it very well could have happened.
It didn't even click with me the first time that we saw it, but each time we watched it, I was just like, "Oh my god, that's terrible." We don't even get confirmation that she's being drugged, though, until she passes out at a job
Which
interview.
is like one of the most embarrassing things I can think of. Like, she was all prepared to show them her work and everything. She opens up her portfolio and there's nothing there.
Nothing is there, he took everything out.
Like, I mean, that was a bad look. A lot of places probably would have just been like, okay, well, um, it looks like your stuff isn't really together, so just give us a call back when it is okay. But this guy gave her the benefit of the doubt. He was like, you can
Mhm.
show it to us another time. That wasn't like the end of the interview, but then she passes out.
Yeah.
And then when the doctors, tell her what happened to her, they're like, yeah, the high levels of diazepam in your system. She's like, wait,
What
what?
diazepam?
Right. So,
Mhm.
and again, he knew that if that showed up in her, blood or whatever in her system, they would probably just go, "Oh, she's probably just like a drug addict."
Mhm.
And all of this stuff that's happening is basically her fault. She's done it to herself. Again, manipulation,
Yeah.
And even towards the end of the film, he started to realize that she was starting to get too smart. So that's why when he jacked her up and he was all like, this is how this is gonna go. Like, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna find somebody that is close to you and hurt them.
Mhm.
And again, she realizes that that puts her in a very difficult position because she can do whatever she can to stop him, but she doesn't want anybody else to be affected by
Right.
this. And that's a weakness. So that's the weakness that he chooses to exploit. And it's that the entire film, him exploiting all of her weaknesses.
And the thing is, I mean, when he says, "I'm gonna target the people closest to you," for the most part, the person that he was really targeting was Storm Reed's character, the
Right.
young girl. Why? Oh my gosh, that's so terrible. There's one scene where he punches her in the face.
Right. And obviously nobody can see that he's in the room, that he's done that, but it's just Cecilia uh
And
and
Sydney.
Sydney, and all of a sudden she just gets rocked in the face. And of
Mhm.
course, what do you think she's gonna think? There's nobody
Right.
else in the room. She just got punched. She's gonna assume that Cecilia did it. And so, like, of course, that creates this strain between, the relationship between her and Sydney and James,
Mhm.
because he's like, okay, now you're in my house, you're acting all crazy, and now you just assaulted my daughter. Like, whatever is going on with you, you need help,
Right.
but you're not gonna come in here and, assault my family. And like, I feel like he was pretty nice about the way that he handled
He
it, because he could
that's
have just been like, get out,
like, that's one thing I can give him so much credit for. He is so kind and compassionate throughout the entire
and
film
patient.
and very patient. I actually feel like he's more understanding than her sister is.
Yeah, by a large margin, because like, her and her sister have had clearly, they've had issues
Yeah.
in the past, like, kind of an on again, off again relationship, like, one week they might be getting along, the next week they might not be, and I guess that's just the dynamic of their relationship, so when that
Or, I mean, how much of it is it just being the dynamic of their relationship? And how much of it could it be that Adrian wasn't allowing her to communicate with her family?
could have been that, for sure, and
Because,
the way that she, her sister perceived that is, oh, she's all buddied up with this rich guy, so she doesn't think we're good enough for her anymore. That might have been the feeling that she had, after they got together. But really what it was Adrian was telling her, when you're with me, not with
yeah.
your family. Like, I tell you when you can see them and when you can talk to them.
And then we don't ever actually see any other family. It is literally just
Yep.
Emily. It's just Emily. We never see a mom, a dad, any aunts, uncles, cousins, nobody. It's literally just Emily, which brings me it makes me think of a one scene where she's pretty sure that Adrian is in the house. I think she throws the coffee on the floor by this point, and she sits there and she just talks and she goes, "Why me? You could have any woman that you wanted. Why? Why did you go after me? I'm just a suburban girl who was just you just met me at a bar." And it makes me wonder, does she not have any other family and that made her an easy target?
Mhm. I can guarantee that when she met him at that bar, obviously, she's got a little drinks in her, so her inhibitions are down, and maybe she and him chatted it up for a while. He started
Mhm.
to learn all about her. He may have even asked her questions like, "Where you from?"
Yes, so what about your family?
Yeah,
And
stuff like that. He
mhm.
wanted to know every single thing about her because he wanted to be able to find those weaknesses to see if she was going to be easy to manipulate. When he found out her relationship with her sister is kind of rocky, maybe her relationship with her family is strained, and she's kind of doing it on her own. Yeah, she's successful. She's a architect, but it's like she doesn't really have a strong support system and not many friends.
Mhm.
She's only got like one friend, one real close friend. He was just like, yeah, this is a
This
cakewalk.
is perfect.
Yeah.
Ugh. So manipulating the situation from the very beginning.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's done this with other women.
Mhm.
Like, this is probably like his thing, and it just so happens that when he found her, he decided to play the long game with her. But there may have been women before her where it didn't last very long.
Mhm.
Who knows what happened to them? Like, that's the really scary part. Like, if she's not the only one that he's ever acted this way with, what happened to those other women?
Right.
Ugh, crazy. So, all of this happens, and we get to a climax situation where now he doesn't even care if people can see him or not. He's in the hospital after her, and his suit is still invisible for the most part. Um, and you're just like, okay, what needs to happen now in order for this to like end the way that we all want it to end? And when she's in the police station with James, he's telling her how it needs to end. And when we see that, we're like, okay, that's the solution. The cameras caught this. They realized that you weren't at fault. The brother, was locked
Was
up.
actually in the suit. Like it
Yeah.
gets really weird
Like,
because who was actually at the hospital? Was it Adrian or was it Tom? Because it was Tom at James's house.
right. So it could have been either one of them.
Mhm.
But when they quote found Adrian, he was apparently tied up in the basement. And that's what James was basically saying. We found him. He's, his brother was behind the whole thing. And she's just like,
Yeah.
that's not it. And you almost want to be like, girl, whether that's true or not, just take this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't put yourself through any more turmoil. But she knew more than anyone else, if he's still alive, then the torment is going to continue.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what it looks like happen. It matters what is happening. And she said, this is what he does. He makes me feel like I'm the crazy person. And, you know, I
She's a
just,
lot more confident by then.
right. And I feel like at that point, she realizes, okay, I'm going to have to put myself in a situation where I don't feel like I have the strength or the courage to do this. And he's probably not going to expect that I would do something like this, which is how I can turn the tables because he is so confident that he's got all the control.
Mhm.
He doesn't think he needs to think any other way. He doesn't think she's strong enough or smart enough to be able to put herself in a position that actually gives her the upper hand. It's almost like playing chess.
Mhm.
If you talk to anybody who's like a master chess player, they'll tell you one of the easiest ways to win the match is to just feed your pieces to the other person and
Mhm.
make them think that they got those pieces because they are better at the game than you are. But the whole time you're setting them up. And before you know it, it's checkmate for you.
Mhm.
And they weren't paying attention to what you were actually doing because they were too busy thinking about, oh, I win, I win, I win. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's the same thing here. He's like done all this stuff to her, and these are all victories for him. But when she gets to the point where she's like, this is going to require me to sort of step right back in front of that gun in an effort to get him to put his guard down so that I can have the upper hand. That's when she, like you said, starts to really show that confidence. Like, I know what I need to do now, you
Mhm.
know? And so when that final scene happens and the tables do turn on him and she's just sitting there looking at him and she makes that fake 911 phone call
Yeah.
basically where she's like pretending to cry. And then as soon as she gets off the phone, her face changes and it goes from, being like scared and frantic to just like, I win,
Yeah.
She said the last word she said to him was surprise,
Mhm.
and you just feel it's like so satisfying. You're
Yeah.
like, finally, like it actually worked out.
I love that she was able to use his suit against him. That was one of the best parts of the ending for me, was that she was able to put on that suit that she very strategically packed away
Uh-huh.
earlier in the film, and you're like, "What is she doing? Why'd she put that there?" Well, because she was gonna use it. I don't know, maybe she had it all planned out back then, but she's like, this is gonna come in handy," and it did, because she was able to go in there and she handled him.
And it's so silly because like he clearly thought he had every single area of his plan figured out.
Mhm,
And he probably didn't even think that she might try to use a suit against him, especially when he realized when I put the suit on, I'm completely invisible. Like, I wouldn't leave anything to chance. I'd be like, if this gets into the hands of anybody else, like, then I'm the one that's going to be hunted, like, then
mhm,
I lose that control. But he was so confident that he was like, he probably thought that she's too stupid to even know how to use this,
mhm.
you know? So when she did use it against him, he is so surprised and so defeated in that moment because he's like, I never really had a true perception of who she was. Like, I thought I had her completely figured out, and I didn't.
Mhm.
And it's just so, like I said, it's so satisfying to watch her look over him like I took the power back?
Yeah. I will say the one thing I didn't like about the ending is that James kinda got sucked into Cecilia's plan without really knowing that he was gonna get sucked in, so
Uh-huh.
she kills Adrian, and then James is like, "Whoa, wait a minute, what happened?" Because she made it look like he committed suicide.
Right.
But then, James sees all of the bloody clothes, the bloody suit
Uh-huh.
that Cecilia wore in order to make this happen, and he's like, "Nah, I don't know, that is not what it looks like." And he's like, "You never actually truly planned on working things out with him, did you?" And she just kinda makes a face. I don't know, I don't like the fact that
He's left to clean up the pieces, essentially,
yeah, he's kinda dragged into this
He's kind of an
plot.
accessory.
Yeah, he's an accessory, and he didn't even intend to be one.
Right.
But if he tries to clear his name or anything like that, I mean, who's really gonna believe him? They're friends, everybody knows that they're friends, so
Right.
and that's just kinda tricky. Because generally speaking, he is a very good guy, and he tries to be a good cop, and,
Uh-huh.
um, I feel like that could damage his career in the long run if anything ever came of it.
Right. I also think that, you know, he, throughout the entire film, has been pretty much her strongest
Mhm,
support system. Like, he didn't even waste time trying to explain away how this might go down.
mhm,
And I think that's a testament to, his, commitment to her as
mhm.
her friend, because he was basically just like, okay, I guess it looks like he killed himself, like to the bitter end, and that's the kind of friend I want. You know what I'm
But he
saying?
definitely hesitated. He did not look comfortable with that
Oh,
at all.
no. And I think for a split second there, he did think to himself, is this compromising your integrity as a police officer?
Mhm,
Or is this you supporting your friend to the very end based on this incredibly ridiculous and, highly damaging situation that she's been through? And obviously one of them outweighed the other. He basically said, I'm gonna go down for my friend. And that's awesome. Like, that was the ending that really made me feel good. Like that he still had her back even through, all of that.
I think he felt like he didn't really have much of a choice.
I mean, he probably didn't,
Mhm.
but I think out of everything, he really wanted her to finally find that closure so that she could start rebuilding her life. And he was like, if it takes me walking away from the situation and just reporting this as a suicide, um, and clearly that's what it's going to look like on the camera, then, you know, I'm going to give that to her.
Mhm.
Now, after all that horrific, torturous stuff that he put her through, we get to the ending. It's very satisfying and everything. But this film, like, to me, it does kind of stay with you. I definitely felt like something, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and I was happy at the end of it. I did have some questions, but I personally feel like the film did a really good job of telling that entire story in an entertaining and high tension way. At the end of it, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like it was an effectively told story? Did you feel like the pacing was off? Like,
I remember when we first watched it in 2020, I didn't like it that much, and I was confused why so many people did like it.
mm,
But when we rewatched it specifically to review it, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, that was pretty good." And I do like how they've been using, the shots where it's very clearly from Adrian's view. That really worked for me.
right?
Um, is it my favorite? No.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite film. As a reimagining of a classic, horror story,
Mhm.
I think they did a really good job with it. So, I I guess we should probably give it a rating at this point now, right? We've
Yeah,
we've reached the point now where we need to actually rate this film. So, how many cookies are we giving this film?
I give it a 4.
I'm gonna agree with that. I know that that's like the third or fourth time that I've done that, but yeah, we tend to feel the same way about films. We were both in agreement with that, though, right?
Yeah, we've
That's what I'm
been we've
saying.
been in agreement pretty consistently.
Yeah.
I do still think you like this movie more than I do, but I think it does deserve a 4.
Okay, and I agree with that. So, Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man, we're gonna give it 4 cookies. That means it was tasty, right? Good film. That's gonna wrap it up for this episode. We want to thank everybody out there for listening. All you slashers and scream queens, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to head over to Chocolate Chip Horror's Substack. That's where you can grab today's brownie recipe and read all the notes about it. Also, head over to our official Etsy store. That's etsy.com/shop/chocolate chip horror. Go there, get yourself one of our bits and pieces sticker sheets, and keep your eyes open for when we launch our next limited edition cookie tin. We are currently sold out of the one that we released.
Can't believe it.
Like, that is a very awesome feeling. Everybody who purchased one, thank you very much. That I did not think that was going to happen. So yes, we are going to have a new one at the end of the month. So make sure to look for that. If you're fast, you'll be able to get one. Apparently they sell out.
They sell out, and, I mean, if you've been paying attention on social media, you don't wanna miss your chance to get a Daddy Crux spin.
Yes. And if you don't know what that is, then head over to the Digital Graveyard. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. Like, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments. Definitely engage with us. We love it when people do that. We want to hear from you. Did you enjoy The Invisible Man from 2020? What's your favorite classic monster movie turned modern? We want to know these things. So I guess that's it. Until next crime, I'm the Wolfman Anthony.
And I'm the Queen of Harpies, Andrea.
Now get out of our graveyard.